something rather beautiful about this Leo new moon, because this isn't simply a new moon. The sun and the moon come together in Leo, and this particular new moon is also a solar eclipse. So there's a fascinating quality of light being briefly obscured while something new is beginning underneath it. And then alongside that, we have this lovely thread of wisdom and devotion running underneath it. So it feels less like pushing for a new beginning and more like becoming quiet enough to remember what actually matters to you. Hey there, this is Jojo from Seventh Plane Healings and astrojo.com with your Astrosonics, where we go on a cosmic sound journey together. And in this episode, we're exploring the Leo new moon, which is on the 13th of August in Australia at 3:37 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And this Leo new moon, the moon will be our focal point in this sound immersion. And this one has a lovely combination of concentration and flow. So the moon and the sun meet, creating the unmistakable new moon moment. But there's something else happening here that's rather special. So the new moon is also a solar eclipse. And the eclipse occurs because the moon is passing between the earth and the sun at almost exactly the same time as the new moon alignment. So symbolically, we have the sun and the moon coming together while the moon briefly interrupts our view of the sun. So I think that adds an interesting layer to this particular Leo new moon. Because Leo is so much about radiance, visibility, creativity, and expression. So an eclipse can invite us to consider what happens when the light isn't immediately visible. What remains when we can't quite see the whole picture yet? What is actually forming? What is quietly forming underneath the surface? And what might be ready to emerge that we're trying so hard to make it happen? And then we have the two trines. We've got two trines to the moon, one from Pallas Athena and the other one from Vesta, both asteroids. So there's not a lot of aspects to this new moon, but we have the two asteroids saying hello. So there's this interesting combination of something that's becoming very focused, while at the same time there's this receptivity quality around wisdom, dedication, and what we choose to give our attention to. So it feels radiant, it feels receptive and renewing. And there's also something particularly interesting here about Leo because Leo asks us to consider the heart, not simply as an emotion, but as a piece of vitality, creativity, authenticity, and expression. So what is genuinely alive in you? What deserves your attention? And what are you willing to give your energy to because it actually means something to you? So, but before we dive in, just a quick note. So if you would like to work with planetary frequencies, I've been creating tuning forks, sound baths, packages, which are personal tune-ups to your own specific astrology. It's 20 plus page astrological report and a sound immersion like this, and along with a few extra bonuses. And you'll also find some more information about my attune, coherence, frequency, energy, imprinted pendants that many of you have been asking about. So there's more description in the links below if they resonate with you. And if you haven't already, and you don't mind, please like, share and subscribe. And you can also join the Spotify version of this if you prefer just to listen to audio or whilst you're doing things. And in this episode, we shall explore three things. So we're going to look at the meeting of the moon and the sun in Leo. And we're going to look at what it means for this new moon is also being a solar eclipse. Then we'll look at the two flowing relationships with Pallas Athena and Vesta and how wisdom and devotion weave into the picture. Then we'll move into a planetary tuning fork sound bath, which is giving you some space to experience the symbology through sound. So let's have a look at what's happening in the sky. Here is the astro breakdown. So with this new moon, it's always a meeting of the sun and the moon. And the sun represents the conscious principle, identity, vitality, creative expression, and the way we shine ourselves into the world. And the moon, it brings us into a different territory. It's feeling, it's more feeling, it's instinct, inner life, receptivity, and the quieter rhythms through which we experience ourselves. But when they meet, these two symbolic currents come together, and here they're meeting in Leo. Then Leo brings us towards the heart, of things, the creativity, warmth, courage, individuality, and the simple question of what makes us feel genuinely alive. The moon is also flowing into relationships with Pallas Athena and Vesta. And so beneath the obvious Leo invitation to shine, there seems to be another layer asking you, what do you know? What do you value? What are you devoted to? And how might those things inform the way you express yourself? And that's a nice movement here. There's a nice movement here between renewal and discernment. So between opening the heart and listening to wisdom. And between creative expression and choosing where that expression is actually worth investing. So let's have a look at these one at a time. We'll start with the sun in a conjunction with the moon. So this is the heart of the new moon itself. And the moon and the sun, they're meeting at 20 degrees Leo, and the sun is also the ruling planet of Leo. And this particular new moon is also a solar eclipse. So while the sun and the moon are coming together, the moon is also passing between the earth and the sun. So it's briefly obscuring the solar light. So symbolically, I think that's quite interesting. It's because sometimes we imagine renewal as something bright and obvious, like a new beginning, clear decisions, and a sudden burst of energy. But an eclipse reminds us that beginnings, they don't always arrive fully illuminated. So sometimes something is forming before we can actually see what it is. So maybe the old way of seeing something has become a little less visible before another perspective can emerge. And perhaps that's especially interesting given that this is in Leo. Because Leo is associated with the heart, vitality, creativity, courage, authentic expression. So the consciousness and the instinctive part of ourselves, they gather together. And the part of us that says, this is who I am, meets the quieter part that says, and this is what I feel. So with the eclipse woven through that meeting, there can be something quite beautiful about allowing ourselves to just have allowing us not to have all the answers immediately. So it feels alive, and what matters, what wants expression, and what part of yourself have you perhaps been keeping slightly too contained? And what is quietly emerging that you don't quite have words for yet? So this doesn't necessarily mean we need to make a grand declaration or suddenly reinvent ourselves. Sometimes a new moon, and perhaps especially an eclipse new moon, is a quiet moment. It's just a much more quieter moment. Sometimes renewal begins with recognition, and sometimes that was already there. You might have a creative impulse, a desire, and a part of yourself that wants a little more room. So a warmth that returns, excuse me, a warmth that returns when you're doing something simply because you just love it. You know, that can be something very gathering about this conjunction. Rather than scattering our attention in every direction, we can bring back towards the center, back towards the heart, to become a little more present and to become who we already are. And perhaps for a moment, we don't need to see the whole path. We can simply notice what is beginning to grow. And we move on to Pallas Athena, the asteroid Pallas. So the moon is in a trine, which is a beautiful flowing aspect. So we have this beautiful trine to Pallas Athena. And Pallas brings a different quality into the picture. It's pattern recognition, intelligence, a strategy, discernment, and the ability to see relationships between things. So while the moon is involved with wisdom, while the moon is involved, that wisdom isn't necessarily something that you have to think about. It's not something you have to think our way towards. It can be quieter than that. And sometimes you just simply know. You notice a pattern, you recognize something you've seen before, and you have a little internal moment of, oh, I see what's happening now. See the big picture. And because this is a trine, there's this sense of flow rather than a struggle. The Leo new moon may be opening the heart, while Pallas Athena offers a little more perspective around what we do with that opening. So perhaps there's room for both, for feeling and for seeing, for intuition and for intelligence, for allowing something to touch us emotionally without immediately needing to act on it. This is where I think the sound journey can be particularly interesting. So you can, rather than just trying to work anything out, you can simply allow the tones to create a little space around our thoughts. Just allowing the mind to soften. And letting patterns reveal themselves over time. And sometimes clarity doesn't arrive because we've pushed harder. Sometimes it arrives because we've finally become quiet enough to notice it. And then we have the moon trining Vesta. So it's another trine. So here, Vesta carries a symbolism of devotion and dedication, sacred focus, and the flames that we tend. And I like this alongside with the Leo new moon, because the Leo is often associated with creative expression and radiance, but radiance doesn't necessarily come from constantly performing. It can come from tending something consistently and something we give our attention to because it matters to us, and keeping a little flame alive. And perhaps that's part of the eclipse symbolism here. Trusting that something can be growing even while you can't see the whole shape of it. And so with the moon flowing towards Vesta, there can be a lovely invitation to notice what you naturally care about. So what draws your attention without having to be forced? What do you return to? What are you willing to nurture simply because it feels meaningful? And perhaps that's where this new moon becomes less about the dramatic new you and more about renewing your relationship with something that's already important to you. It might be creativity, perhaps a relationship. Leo also rules the 5th house of romance and relationships. Maybe a project. It may simply be the way that you inhabit your own life. And there's something very gentle about that. The heart itself doesn't always need a revolution. Sometimes it just needs tending. And we can move into the sound bath. Perhaps we can simply allow ourselves to notice where your attention naturally wants to rest. And this is where we can move from thinking about the astrology into simply experiencing it. So we've explored the gathering quality of the moon and the sun, and the quiet mystery of the eclipse, the wisdom of Pallas, and the devotion focus of Vesta. So we can now we can let those ideas soften as you listen and allow whatever is ready to emerge to simply have some space. Just align with these planetary frequencies. I invite you to join me on this sacred sound journey. Take a deep breath in and release. Take another deep breath. And this time, as you let go, just releasing, bringing your awareness inward, allowing your body to soften and the mind to become a little quieter. This new moon carries a beautiful invitation towards renewal. What deserves your attention? What are you willing to tend? And what will it feel like to let yourself receive that? And our affirmation is, I open into radiant renewal, steadying my heart as I trust my inner wisdom. I open to radiant renewal, steadying my heart as I trust my inner wisdom. Just take a moment to integrate these planetary energies, feeling balance and harmony within. And if you would like your own personal planetary tune-up, I have a few packages available at astrojo.com. You'll get a personal astrosonic sound bath with a astro breakdown. You'll get the video-only version of the sound bath and just the audio version, so you can listen on repeat while you meditate. You'll get a guide. You also get a 90-day integration checklist, a astrosonics resonance summary, and you'll get a full package astrological report, professional report. It's a deep dive into your natal blueprint or your solar return transits, or your transits, depending on which package you choose, and also a custom astrological chart image. And if you'd like to know more about my Attune Coherence Bioresonance jewelry, you can find more at seventhplanehealings.com. I'll try and show you the different colors here. This one's the gold. Not quite sure how to get it all the way up with and staying in focus. So there's the gold, and it's the back. The holographic material is what some of the frequencies are imprinted to. This is the rose gold. And the copper coil is like a Nikola Tesla style bifilar coil cut to the length of a sacred cubit, also having frequencies imprinted into it. And we have the silver. So this is the silver. And I use Rife machine and scalar field technology to imprint into these. And it also comes with a theta healing download. So you just need to say yes, and that becomes available to you energetically. And thanks again for joining me on this cosmic sound adventure. If you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, share it with somebody who may benefit. And if you want to stay up to date with the weekly Astrosonics journeys, you could also join Spotify if you like, to listen that way. And let's tune into the universe together.